From the CyberHub bunker and studio, you're tuning in to the CyberHub Podcast. And now for your host and CISO, James Azar.
Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let me bring you the one, the only, the magnificent, the cyber awareness extraordinaire, Mr. Erich Kron.
Ooh, that's pretty impressive. Almost as impressive as your intro there. I got to tell you, I'm glad nobody can see me jamming out to the music there in the beginning, because it gets out of hand sometimes, man.
I do jam out to that music. I won't lie, that right before the show goes on, that's kind of like my pick-me-up music, right? It's magnificent. I've had people tell me to keep it, and I've had people tell me you switch it sounds like 90s. And I'm like, I kind of like the 90s. Full House, Family Matters, right? Like the best music. Right, like the best show theme songs were like, Full House, Family Matters.
I don't know. The 80s were pretty good, man. I've been watching, Stranger Things. I still love the 80s. And I think that's the big draw to Stranger Things is we get to see all those crazy things, like the huge cordless phones that we used to have. Remember that?
Yep.
You get to see them. You're like, oh, I remember that. And the kids are looking at me like, it's little things in life, right?
My son's still very young, so I don't have to explain that stuff to him yet. But I got him a toy, and it's one of those like rotating phones, right? Like, remember the old phones?
Yeah, the rotary phones.
Rotary phones. So I got him one of those rotary phones, and he looks at it and he's perplexed. Right, but he'll see an iPhone or any sort of smartphone, and it's like it turns on right away.
Yeah. Yep. Right? When I was younger, one of my younger children had gone into this little 50s diner to drop something off for a friend of ours there. And she came back and she's like, hey, they have one of those machines that plays the really big CDs. And I was like,
you mean a record?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, there we are, man.
That's how you know we're old, right? When someone comes and they're like, those really, it's kind of like a CD, but it's a lot bigger. Like, how did people fit these in their car? Like, what kind of dashboard did you have back then?
Oh, man. Yeah. So it's Friday. We can, yeah.
When people realize that, back then we listened to the radio, right? Yeah. Like, and you'd sit there and you'd listen. I mean, when I was young, right? I mean, when I was in my teens, like, to listen to your favorite song, you'd sit around on your favorite radio station. You're like, play it again.
Yeah.
How many times did you have like a cassette tape in the thing to record the song so you could replay it?
Yeah, mixtapes were really a mixtape, right? Had the dual cassette recorder, and you could play on one, mix it off to the other. And I don't know about you. Yeah, I've called the DJ going, can you please play this song? And then been like, ready with the button. Man, we're old. We're old, James.
Sounds like a good Luke Bryant song right there, right?
Oh, man.
All right, so we'd love to reminisce about the 90s today. We would, and the 80s and our childhoods, and we may have to do a reminisce show, right? Just to kick back and remember the good old times before the internet and smartphones. But the internet and smartphones brought us all here. So with that being said, our topic of the day today is cyber certifications. And so 2 weeks ago, you and I did a show, and we kind of went all over the place, right? We talked. Last week, I did a show with our good friend James McQuiggan. We talked a little bit about the economic hardship, right? And kind of how is the coming recession impacting cybersecurity? How's it going to impact investment, workforce? Today, it's cyber certs, and it really does piggyback off of last week's conversation when it's really how do you at times where we're seeing massive layoffs. I think Netflix yesterday laid off 300 people. I think some of those people were in their Infosec department, if I'm not mistaken, something that I saw, something on Reddit that I was reading yesterday. And another thing on Slack said that some of the people that were laid off were Infosec people, because someone was saying, there's, 20 qualified Infosec people that are looking for work today and whatnot. So we are seeing kind of these cut downs come through and cyber certifications matter a little bit. Share with us a little bit about, where you see certs and what role they play in really workforce development now.
Well, let me give you a little background too, James. So I worked in the certification industry for a little bit, right? I was I used to write questions for the CISSP back in the day. So if you took it a while back and you had a headache when you were done, I could have been part of that. But I did question writing for that. And then eventually that volunteering, I ended up the director of member relations and services over at ISC Squared, who does the CISSP, right? So I've seen behind the curtains on certification, and I've seen and heard a lot of the complaints about certification, which are
so be a myth
valuable.
buster. So let me stop you. So
Yeah.
be a myth buster.
Yeah.
Right. So give us some insights, right? Let me put you on the spotlight here. Being that you've been on both sides of the coin, right? Let me give you a stigma and tell me if that's a myth or if it's true.
Okay.
Fair? The CISSP is an entry-level cert.
Absolutely false.
So CISSP being a 4-domain type of a test, coming up fourth, what was the purpose of it?
I mean, the thing about the CISSP, right? We have all these different domains and all of this. The real idea behind CISSP, it's actually more of a managerial or senior level cert than it is like a super technical cert. And that's where a lot of people get a little bit confused on that. Now, ISC Squared has the SSCP, which is a more technical cert, but the CISSP really is kind of like this. And you've heard it said before, it's a mile wide and an inch deep, right?
Right.
It doesn't go super deep into anything. But I'll tell you what, in studying for it and in doing those questions and stuff, I learned so much about silly little things that I don't remember, like what's the correct spotlight from a bulb in a parking lot, right? Like how much light coverage is there and spillover. I mean, some of this stuff was just dumb, but it introduced me to areas that I would have never gone in given my normal route. But most of that stuff, a lot of it had to do with policies, and the people that I saw that were super smart technical people, a lot of them really struggled on the CISSP because they always tried to do like a technical cert or a technical approach. And that's not always the best one.
So we look at certifications, right? And there's a whole slew of certifications out there today in the market, right? CISSP is by far the most famous. And you and I have had our fair share on the shows over the last several years, laughing for entry-level roles with a CISSP requirement. And you're like, do you guys did someone just Google certs and put that one on there or not read the requirements for it? Because you can't really have a CISSP unless you've been 5 years hands-on as a practitioner.
Well, there's some things that offset that a little bit. College credit and stuff can knock some time off of that, right? But ultimately, you can't be an entry level or somebody just coming into the industry and be a true CISSP. Now, there is the associate of ISC Squared program, which means you can pass the exam and you can become an associate of ISC Squared. You can't wear the CISSP tag, can't put it in your, in your signature. You can't claim it until you have the requisite, the years in the time as well. But you can pass the test and have a certification. A lot of legal stuff around that though. And people have gotten in trouble for claiming, that they passed the CISSP when in fact they're not a CISSP. That's come back to bite them.
Yeah, it's good to know that there's some standards behind that, right? Let's talk a little bit about, people that are kind of today looking at the economic situation and wondering, is another cert the right approach for their career right now, or should they be doing something else? What's your thoughts on that?
So the thing I hate about certifications is that they're used for gatekeeping so much. And half the time they're used by recruiters that have no idea what they mean, kind of like what you mentioned, but that stops you from even getting an interview or getting your foot in the door. And I think that's a huge problem that we have with these. I think if you're in the industry and you're looking to get into something, unfortunately, at this point in time, there are some that you're going to really need to help you through that. Otherwise, you're fighting harder than you need to. So for me, the Security Plus is always just a basic one that shows, hey, you know what? This person's put forth the effort. They know a little bit here, enough to pass this exam. They care enough to go out and do this. And honestly, that knocks down a lot of the gates on the entry level stuff. That just knocks them right into the ground.
Yeah, that's absolutely, it's true about the gatekeeping. It's true that I feel like hiring and HR has reached a point where they're like, well, we got to have some level of certification or qualifications, and I get that if you're trying to hire someone to operate a forklift, right? You want someone who's forklift certified. I understand that if you're in medicine and you want to hire a nurse or a doctor or a paramedic. Security? I mean, it's a self-thought. Most smart security people never went to a boot camp. Like you and I can single-handedly say we can sit at Black Hat and we can talk to some of the best talks we go to isn't someone who's like, yeah, this is all thanks to the boot camp I went to 10 years ago where they taught me everything I need to know about Kali Linux, right? It's someone who says, I was curious about something. I set a lab up from makeshift stuff that I could get my hands on, and I got in trouble, right, during this process, but here's where I am today. Like, no one respectable has a cert.
I mean, you know what? A lot of people have certs for whatever reason, but ultimately you don't really need them. And this is something that, I didn't get my degree until, I think it was 2013 or 2015. I'd gone through my entire career without even a degree, because people knew me, they knew what I was capable of, et cetera, et cetera. I finally reached a point where ultimately I wanted to go to work for Raytheon because they were close to my house and I was commuting 65 miles each way every day. Right. And I was like, it'd be awesome if I could work there, but I couldn't even get past the basics on the recruiting screen without having a degree. It was like, no. I'm the security manager for the 2nd Regional Cyber Center Western Hemisphere, right? I'm the security manager over the organization that runs all of Active Directory for North America for the Army, the network infrastructure. And I can't even get like an entry level position where I can be interviewed because I didn't have the degree. So I ended up getting the degree. I just busted it out and ended up never applying there again because part of me was a little bit bitter. I was like, you know what? Screw them if they can't do it. And I know that's not a healthy thought process, but it really impacted the way that I look at hiring practices. And right now we got people that scream all the time about, oh, we don't have enough people. We don't have enough people, and they put out these recs and they're trying to hire these people and need all these certs. But then you have the person over in the IT shop or whatever, jumping up and down, raising their hand going, pick me, because they really want to do that. They have that mentality, but they're overlooked so often because, well, you're not a security person already. And that kills me, man.
Yeah. So, that was really funny because in my new role, right, that had a meeting with, our people operations / HR, and we're putting up these job recs I'm trying to hire for. And they go, well, what, you don't have any requirements here. And I go, yeah, there's one. Be passionate about security.
Yeah.
I don't care about your college degree. It tells me nothing. I'm not trying to hire a theoretical physicist where I go, all right, I need a Harvard grad or an Ivy League grad for that. Right. I'm not trying to hire a rocket scientist to work at SpaceX. I could see that. I could see you wanting to go and recruit from Ivy League schools. I'm trying to hire security practitioners who are passionate about security, who are willing to put on multiple hats. I don't care what university you went to.
Yep. Or what certs you have.
Yeah, or what certs you got. None of that matters.
Yeah.
Be passionate about security.
Absolutely. And from that, you can work, you can mold, you can work those people in. And I would rather have one of those people than somebody who's gone out and gotten their certifications, maybe even a degree, because somebody told them security is a 6-figure job. You start off at $100K a year. And these people really have no passion for it. And they're going to burn out in 6 months because, let's face it, this is brutal if you're not passionate about it. It just is.
Well, I mean, the turnover is real in this industry, right? I think I saw Naomi, my good friend Naomi Buckwalter, had a post on, I think it was this week or last week, where she said, it's anticipated that 35% of people quit cyber within the first 3 years, right? So people who go and study it quit it after 3 years. And it's almost the same as how you would, we almost need to do kind of like a medical school type of exam, right? Because everyone's like, I want to be a doctor. Yeah, you're going to go and you're like not going to sleep for 8 years.
Yeah.
And you're going to do shit work for shit money. And then at the end of it, you get to be a doctor, right? And only if you're really passionate about it will you make it through those 8 years. But if you look at like medical school, right? If you look through medical school and if you look through how like it starts off freshman year and then how it goes, sophomore, junior, and then residency, and you see the drop. I mean, the drop really, really is steep, and it goes through until you finally end up with the person at the hospital who you see who's going to be your doctor.
Right. I'd much rather be like a physician's assistant that doesn't also have to deal then with all the insurance and stuff that goes with that. Because you heard how much doctors make, right? But you don't know how much they pay to be in practice. That's the other thing that goes on with that.
Well, and their malpractice insurance is crazy.
Yeah,
man. I mean,
that's what I'm saying.
And the responsibility they have. I mean, when you're a doctor, it's almost like being a security practitioner in critical infrastructure, right? If you're the CISO for like a Southern company or a gas company, right? Someone who we rely on day in and day out for to live, and you have an outage, and that outage is because of a cyber incident, and some people die from it. That's no different than a doctor losing a patient on a surgery table. Some people may disagree with that, but
yeah, it's an interesting look. I mean, there's a lot of layers to that. Now, we've on our own podcast, we've interviewed some people that do critical infrastructure, and yeah, the pressure is there because unlike in a lot of other places, you can't have an outage. You just can't. We've seen where things go wrong because of mechanical. I lived in Arizona for a long time. We had a cold snap that in Tucson, it hit 8 degrees, man. That is cold for that area. And the whole Southwest got hit by this super cold snap. Well, because of all the natural gas usage, the pressures got too low and they actually had to shut down natural gas for a lot of people, which took out our heaters and all that kind of stuff at the time. And I remember the impact that had around that area. And it was brutal, right? This critical infrastructure thing is pretty important, obviously. And the stress of being behind that and knowing that you have all of this in your hands to protect, given the fact that they aren't super well funded in a lot of cases, right? We still battle that kind of stuff. And the fact that they're understaffed in a lot of cases, I mean, that's a tough thing. So we're way off subject again, though, James.
Because we can never stay on subject, right? I mean, well, because here's the thing about cyber, but here's the thing about this, right? Everything we're talking about right now, though, has everything to do with certifications, right? I'm sorry, right? Because I brought up the doctor example because I am torn within myself of whether or not I want certs or I don't want certs.
Yeah.
Right? Because if I'm hiring someone who's a higher level in a leadership position, I may be looking for certs. I may be looking for longevity. I may be looking for time vested. Right? Because I need, these are roles where you don't want to have high rotation. If I'm looking for a SOC analyst, I may not have any of those restrictions.
Right.
And I think that's the dilemma we have today in security. Is so many people are like, yes, certs, no certs. And it's like, well, can we just find that beautiful middle ground that says, you know what, there is one, and we've got to be very specific about it.
Well, one of the worst things I think about certs is the people that have them in a lot of cases. Okay, CISSP, I know we've been harping on that, right? But tell me you have not run across somebody that's like, but I'm a CISSP.
Give you an example. So I was at the Indy 500, right? With someone had taken me out to the Indy 500 last month, and we're at this dinner, and I won't name names, right? And we're sitting around the table. It's about 20, 25 of us, and we're having a conversation, and someone asked me, they go, so what do you do? And I was like, well, I'm a CISO for a financial services company. And they go, Yeah, well, I'm also into security. I was like, oh, what do you do? They go, well, I have a CISSP and I'm a CTO for a company that deals with X. And I'm like, okay.
Right. One of the greatest things that ever happened to me in certification land was while I worked for the Army there, and I was over the that area, and we had people try to push back on stuff all the time, policies and all that. And of course I had to tell them no. And I had one guy one time respond to me, and he spelled out his certifications on a signature block. Okay. So instead of just using the acronyms, he spelled out like 3 certifications. Like, that was going to impress me, the size of your signature block. So when I replied to him, I dug up every cert that I ever had. I mean, there's some stupid ones that I got that I don't even remember getting, right? Just some stuff. I did a course once and boom, it ended in certification. So I spelled all of those out, and it was like 3 lines long with all of these certs that I could figure out I had. And it just shut him down, right? But he thought he was going to be so cool and he was going to have so much leverage because he spelled out CISSP and like MCITP. And I was just like, this is the stuff that drives me crazy about people, is they think they're better than somebody because they have a cert. And unfortunately, I see that in the CISSP. It was one of the things that I battled so hard when I was there as the director of member relations and services, is we need to send a better message about that. You're not cooler than other people or better than other people, especially those trying to get into the industry. We do not look down at people just because we have some cert with some stupid letters after our name.
That's the difference kind of between the version of a servant leader, right, and an entitled individual. They're very easy to find out, and they feel almost entitled. I went through the certification and I paid X amount of dollars to go to this class and take this test, and they said we're special, and I want to be treated special, and you will treat me special, and if you don't treat me special, I'll go somewhere else where they do treat me special because I have letters behind my name.
Yep. I remember back in my younger years, I had a guy that was, I was interviewing people, and he came in, and every question he would answer, he didn't even realize it, but he's prefacing it with, oh, I saw this in boot camp. It was this. And it was always, I saw this in boot camp. And I was like, bro, I appreciate you going out and getting a cert. That's fine. But that's probably not the best way to throw that out there, because I know that's the only knowledge you have is what you picked up in that boot camp. I don't hate boot camps either. It's actually a good way to get people started if they have nothing, but then they have to continue it on from there. I mean, it is not a bad thing to get into something and just be totally immersed in it for a week or 2. But that doesn't mean that you're an expert at that point.
Yeah, agreed. Very much so. All right, so we've got 5 minutes left here, and I want to toss out some trivia questions to the audience listening. First answer wins some swag, and I still owe people from last week's swag. So yeah, dude, I have had one of those weeks where I haven't had to ship out. So I didn't even get 2 of those addresses, so I need to do that. So for everyone I stood up last week, that is on me. I take full ownership of my mistake, and I will send you swag. And
if you were a certified internet shipper, you wouldn't have this problem. You should go get that cert.
I should go get that cert, right? Certified shipper. All right. So here's the question. First person to answer wins. You can use, I guess if you cheat, that's fine. I mean, if you're going to end up using DuckDuckGo or Google, I mean, that's your conscience, right? But what year was the CISSP launch? Eric, don't answer.
Nope.
Don't answer. You guys, put it in the comments. We'll see who does that. By the way, since no one answered that fast, right? We know no one knows it off the top of their head. Now it's a matter of who has the fastest connection.
Right.
Fingers, right?
We're looking at Google skills here.
Right. Google skills predominantly at this point, right? So what year was CISSP launched? That's the question. That's the trivia question. While we're waiting for a few answers here, and if you don't answer, that's okay. You'll get a chance to do so on our website.
We got one.
Yep. He's quick, man. He's quick. 1994.
Yep.
I think that's 10 years after George Orwell's 1984.
Yeah. That was a long time ago. I mean, if you think about it, that was a very long time ago for these people to get together and
nearly 20 years, man.
You know,
it's 18 years. It's an 18-year-old cert. It's legal this year.
No, it's older than that. You're doing the math wrong, my friend. Pull up calculator. 1994, right? 204 is 10. 14.
Right. Wow. 28. Man.
Right.
Wow.
Right. Long time ago.
Wow.
Very long time ago. Right. So
1994. See, I should have gone to my Full House calculator, right? Like, when was Full House on? All right, 1990. All right. Yeah.
Right. You know what, man? Every time I turn around, there's stuff like that. Like, somebody posted something up the other day that said, you know, this and this are 60 years apart, and it was the Orville brothers and us on the moon. That was only 60 years apart, right? And some of those are hitting a little bit close to home when they're talking about the 1990s being 30 years ago. I'm like, oh.
So let's ask another one.
Reggie.
He was 14. I was 11. And it depends on when it dropped in 1994. Do you know the month, Eric? That it dropped
I don't. I
wonder what month. All right. Bonus points for anyone who tells me what month. I want to know if I was 11 or 10 at the time it dropped.
I was already in the military, man.
I was still eating cereal every morning and watching cartoons. All right. Mercy. So,
4.
What year?
Y'all aren't making me feel young, okay? Thanks.
You're cruising into your weekend doing this now.
Right. Well, I am limping around. I had Achilles surgery, right? Jeez, man.
Literally and figuratively. All right. So another trivia question is, what year was the CompTIA Security Plus launched?
There you go. While they come up with that, I'm going to go sob softly in the corner over here.
Do you want me to bring you some note cards?
Oh, man. This is rough.
I should have sent you better show notes, right?
No, this is good stuff, man. You know, it's amazing what has happened in our industry in this time, though, since all of this stuff happened. I mean, you know, we're talking about this. I remember like my first IT assignments where I was an IT manager. I was in charge of everything from like the Exchange server. We were a manufacturing organization. So any of the punch presses out on the floor, the CNC machines, because, well, they had a computer in them. And basically anything that plugged into the wall. That was how that worked, right? That's what IT and security was. And now we've moved into this niche sort of thing.
Harshal gets it again. 2002. Reggie went 1990. I think Reggie's just randomly putting out dates at this point.
That's okay. You know, what surprised me about this when I looked at this, there was a significant time between those two. And I didn't realize when I was doing some research for this stuff how much time had crossed between the CISSP being what it was and the Security Plus coming out. I didn't even realize it was in the 2000s. I thought that was interesting. So
yeah, absolutely. 2002. All right, folks, we're going to have a few more trivia questions on our website at cyberhubpodcast.com. Eric, thank you so much for coming on again and doing this. This was fun.
No, it's always a pleasure, man. It really is. I enjoy doing this. I love the feedback we got out there, folks. Thanks for being a part of this today. I really do appreciate that.
I do want to give some shout outs here to Reggie, Nick, Jill. Let's see who else doing it. Jerry Gerard, what's happening, man? John Dela Cruz, Harshil, who's our trivia winner, and he wants to be hired. So hire me. So
hey, if anyone's looking, right?
Yeah. So here's what I will say. Harshil, message me your address and LinkedIn. Nick, you need to do the same as well, buddy. So message me your address so we can get you some swag. And we'll make sure to get some stuff shipped over the weekend. Some really cool stuff from KnowBe4 and yours truly here. So can't wait for that. Mr. Erich Kron, have a wonderful, amazing, cooling weekend. Because I know, it's summer. It's super hot.
Yeah.
All right. And for everyone watching, thanks so much for tuning in. Have a great weekend. We'll be back Monday with the practitioner brief at 9 a.m. Next Friday, James McQuiggan will be joining me for a 4th of July celebration. It should be awesome. It should
Take care.
Spangled magnificent. All right, y'all.
Oh, goodness. All right. Later.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.